Corporation ng Sandatahang Lakas ng Pilipinas na binubuo ng Army, Navy at Air Force na siyang maghahatid sa inyo ng mga balita mula sa ating Armed Forces at iba pang impormasyon. Mga katropa, hanapin at ilike kami sa Facebook, Twitter at YouTube. DWDD AFP Radio, ang boses ng Kawal Pilipino. Ito ang DWDD 1134 kHz AM. Balita, impormasyon at musika. Ito ang DWDD AFP Radio, boses ng Kawal Pilipino.
Araw-araw ang digmaan. Umaga't gabi sumasabak sa laban. Dapat protektado ka outside at inside. Immune Advance contains 4 active ingredients gaya ng lagundi, malunggay, non-acidic vitamin C at zinc. Tulong pampatibay resistensya para tulong proteksyon. Isama pa ang proper diet at exercise. Para katawan ay handa, Immune Advance helps support a healthy immune system. Immune Advance ang sandata. No approved therapeutic claims. Ang Immune Advance ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamiting panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit. Available in Shopee, Lazada, and other leading drugstores.
Kayo ay nakatutok sa DWDD AFP Radio. Kami po ay kasapi ng KBP, Kapisanan ng mga Broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Kaibigan, 8 letra, 4 na pantig. Sila ang ating itinuturing na sandalan, lalo na sa tuwing tayo ay may pinagdadaanan o di kaya'y may mabigat na pinapasan. May mga pagkakataon mang hindi sila direktang nakakapagbigay ng solusyon sa ating mga suliranin, sapat na kung tayo'y kanilang napapatawa. Gayon din ang kanilang pagbibigay ng walang humpay na pagkikinig at pagsuporta upang tayo'y patuloy na lumaban kahit pa tayo ay nahihirapan. Ngunit sa konteksto ng pagprotekta at pagdepensa sa ating bansa, laban sa alinmang maaaring maging banta, sino nga ba ang ating kasangga?
Hindi may tatangging walang himpis ang pagsisikap ng hukbong sandatahang lakas ng Pilipinas na mapaigting ang kaalaman at kapabilidad ng kanilang hanay upang mas magampanan ang kanilang tungkuling protektahan ang bayan laban sa anumang banta sa ating kasarinlan. Sa kabila nito, hindi isinasantabi at patuloy na ipinagpapasalamat ng Pilipinas na mayroong mga bansa na hindi natitinag, buong pusong umaagapay at walang humpay na nakikipagkaisa upang maprotektahan at maisulong ang kaunlaran ng ating bayan. Ito ang United States of America. Magandang araw, sambayanang Pilipino. Ating tunghayan ang ika-38 Balikatan exercises sa pagitan ng Sandatahang Lakas ng Pilipinas at ng Estados Unidos na isinasagawa taon-taon. Sabay-sabay nating silipin ang ilan sa mga aktibidad na nakapaloob sa naturang exercise na ginaganap sa iba't ibang bahagi ng Pilipinas at kung paano ito nakakatulong upang mas magampanan ng mga kasundaluhan ang kanilang tungkuling sinumpaan. Pilipinas, anumang oras, kahit saan man ang mga kasundaluhan ay inyong maaasahan. Ako po si Major Sinon C. Pancito III at kami ang inyong kawal.
Maraming beses nang sinubok ang katatagan ng ating bayan. Mula sa mga hindi pagkakaintindihan hinggil sa ideya at paniniwala na nauuwi sa mga sagupaan hanggang sa mga hindi inaasahang trahedya o kalamidad na minsan nang kumitil sa buhay ng karamihan. Dahil rito lubos na nagsusumikap ang ating gobyerno upang patuloy na maprotektahan at matulungan ang bawat mamamayang Pilipino. Subalit sa kabila ng kahandaan ng ating bansa sa alinmang maaaring maging banta, hindi maipagkakailang mas gumagaan ang anumang problema kung may bansang nagsisilbi nating kasangga. Isa na rito ang Estados Unidos o United States. May mga suliranin mang dumating sa paglipas ng higit 7 dekada, patuloy pa ring lumalalim at tumitibay ang pagkakaibigan ng dalawang puwersa. Sa katunayan, ang isa sa mga taon-taong isinasagawa ng dalawang bansa upang mas maging malakas at maging handa sa pagtugon sa tawag ng sinumpaang tungkulin ay ang Balikatan o shoulder-to-shoulder exercises. Ito ang pinakamalaking exercises na binubuo ng mga kasundaluhan, laang kawal ng Pilipinas at ilang mga sibilyan mula sa sandatahang lakas ng Pilipinas at ng Estados Unidos.
Balikatan exercise is all about achieving jointness and the combined arms between the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the U.S. Armed Forces. And it's more of capacitating our troops since we will be transitioning from internal defense to external defense. We have to understand more how to undertake external defense operations.
Balikatan is an important opportunity to train shoulder to shoulder and build trust and confidence that enables our forces to respond to crisis and contingencies as a team.
Ang seremonya ng pagbubukas ng Balikatan 2023 na siyang pang-38 beses na pagsasagawa sa naturang exercises ay ginanap sa Camp Emilio Aguinaldo, Quezon City, kung saan ang kabuuang bilang ng mga lumahok ay nasa 17 at 500 mga sundalo.
Be about 17,600 troops, about 12,000 U.S. troops, about 5,700 Philippine troops, and about 110 or 11 Australian troops involved in this training exercise.
And so, by the authority vested in me as the Chief of Staff, Armed Forces of the Philippines, I now formally declare the Philippines United States Exercise Balikatan 38-2023 open.
Ang tema ng Balikatan ngayong taon ay nakaangkla sa coastal at maritime defense at may kaakibat na iba't ibang mga layunin, kabilang na ang mga sumusunod. To define command and control functions and strengthen interagency collaborations, to test deployment concepts of newly acquired capabilities under the AFP modernization program, to project a credible defense posture and enhance AFP capabilities for cyber defense operations, including AFP communications, electronics, information systems, infrastructures, and processes.
We are doing an external defense scenario. We are walking through the entry of U.S. forces through the combined joint logistics over the shore. Behind us is where the exercise will take place. We have elements coming from the joint U.S. forces, which are going to be bringing in troops and equipment from the shore to the land. Most of the things that you are going to see in the field training exercises will be military exercises. They're going to be very kinetic in their application. So you will see live fire exercises, you will be seeing maritime maneuvers, and also amphibious operations. And the most you will see during the combined logistics is really a logistics exercise. Those exercises are intended to ensure the AFP's combat readiness for us to be able to execute our mandate, for us to be able to protect the Filipino people. That is our primary duty as only organization that is mandated to defend the country.
This year's Balikatan exercise is most timely as we fast-track the enhancement of our capabilities for maritime security and domain awareness, as well as our employment concept of newly acquired equipment and weapon systems under our modernization program and application of newly developed doctrines with the end in view of projecting a credible defense posture.
Ang nasabing Balikatan exercise ay binubuo ng 4 na mga pangunahing aktibidad na siyang isinagawa sa iba't ibang bahagi ng Pilipinas. Kabilang narito ang Command Post Exercise, Cyber Defense Exercise, Field Training Exercise, and Humanitarian Civic Assistance.
The exercise would take place in many places, and one of us, we are now here in the port of Kasiguran, where the combined joint and logistics over the sea exercise is taking place. And in the next few days, when the exercise opens, we will have the exercise in Camp Aguinaldo, in Gamu, Isabela, in Lalo, Cagayan, in Batanes, and of course, we will have the final exercise in Zambales. Particularly, there will be a naval exercise in the part of boundary of the Visayas and Luzon, and as it goes up, we will go to the exercise up in the Ilocos area.
Bagaman maraming mga nakalaan na iba't ibang exercises para sa Balikatan 2023, ang isa sa pinaka-inaabangan ng lahat ay ang pagpapalubog sa 2 target na barko na dinaluhan mismo ni Pangulong Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr.
The first one is the combined and joint logistics over the sea, that one that you just saw a while ago. In a few days after the opening ceremony, we will be doing the defense of West Philippine Sea. It will be a combined Navy, combined Marines exercise to take place in our internal waters from Antique all the way to Palawan. So there will be different events, maritime domain awareness exercises, well deck operations, and it will culminate in an amphibious operation in Brooks Point, Palawan. And the last exercise is going to be the defense of Northern Luzon. We are going to have a combined and joint littoral live fire that will be conducted in Zambales at the Naval Education Training Doctrine Command Zambales. We will be firing different weapon systems coming from both the U.S. Armed Forces and also from the AFP. And then the objective there is to sink a maritime target vessel 12 nautical miles into the ocean. That will be the culminating and the highlight of the entire exercise.
Ang Balikatan exercise ay itinuturing ng 2 bansa bilang mahalagang pagkakataon upang mas mahasa ang kakayahan at kapabilidad, hindi lamang ng mga kasunduluhan, kundi pati na rin ng iba't ibang mga makabagong kagamitan.
So lately, we have the BRP Rizal, and the another one also, we have the logistic ship 601, I believe, and the American ships that's also joining the exercises.
Every opportunity where you will have the AFP and the U.S. Armed Forces together operating side by side is always a positive step in the right direction. We have a lot to learn, and the way we can best learn it, apart from learning it in the classroom, is actually working with our treaty partners, observing them, observing their standards, learning from them, and at the same time, they will also learn from us.
At bagaman may mga salik na lubos na nakakaapekto sa naturang exercise, kagaya na lamang ng hindi pag-ayon ng panahon at maging ang katotohanan na hindi madali ang pagsasagawa ng mga combined and joint operations sa pagitan ng Armed Forces of the Philippines at United States Armed Forces, pinatunayan ng dalawang pwersa na ang lahat ng mga napagplanuhan ay kaya nilang maisakatuparan.
These are little lessons that we learn from previous exercises. Remember that these are exercises. Exercises, you can make all the mistakes you want in an exercise for as long as you learn from them. So last year we had issues on the weather. We had to delay one event, which was the amphibious assault. We had to delay it by 1 day because the weather conditions on the day we were supposed to conduct it was not favorable. So, but that's normal. Those events are normal, and we're prepared for those contingencies. This exercise, we are also prepared for any contingencies. We anticipate that, just like last year, weather might still be a problem, but we have ways of working around that. Aside from that, we also remind our people that this exercise is we are trying to simulate real-world operations, and sometimes weather will be a major factor. So we treat an exercise the same way we treat normal operations. We prepare for every contingency and we make adjustments where necessary.
Kaya naman ang Balikatan exercises ay isang patunay na ang bansang Pilipinas at Estados Unidos ay hindi lamang nakapokus sa pagpapalakas ng kanilang puwersa, kundi pati na rin sa pagpapalawig at pagpapatibay ng kanilang relasyon bilang mga bansa na maiisang mithiin, magkaagapay sa pagharap ng alinmang suliranin.
This year's Balikatan will be the biggest ever, an indication of the growth of our alliance and how it continues to evolve to meet our shared goals. The United States and the Philippines share a vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific that is more connected, prosperous, secure, and resilient.
I am confident that both our armed forces shall reap invaluable benefits from this Balikatan exercise as we continue to pursue our shared goals of regional peace, security, and stability.
The message is very simple, and if I were to put it in layman's terms, the Philippines and the U.S. forces have been in a partnership since the Bataan Death March. From that time, all the way to 38 iterations of Balikatan, the Philippine forces and U.S. forces have always been allies. And allies in this sense, in a very simplistic way of looking at it, is family. We all know that nothing can break family. And in the culture of the Philippines and in the culture of the United States, sometimes family is everything. You may not see your family every day. You may not talk to your family every day. But when your family calls you, you respond. And in this case, in this family matter, we've been called upon to train together. And we learn from that. And that's the true message of Balikatan. In translation, shoulder to shoulder. That doesn't mean weapon to weapon. It really means family.
Sa paglipas ng panahon, masasalamin ang ugnayan ng dalawang bansa na higit pa sa mga dokumentong nagpapatunay ng kanilang kasunduan sapagkat ang tibay at lalim ng hangarin ng dalawang puwersa na umagapay at tumulong sa isa't isa ay tunay na hindi matatawaran. Ilang dekada man ang dumaan. Bagaman hindi hinahangad ng sinuman ang digmaan o alinmang labanan, batid ng karamihan na may mga pagkakataong hindi ito maiiwasan. Bunsod ng mga ideya o paniniwala na nauuwi sa hindi pagkakaintindihan. Kaya naman marapat lamang na ang ating bansa ay laging handa upang dumepensa at promotekta sa ating teritoryo at soberanya. Subalit hindi lamang hinggil rito ang binibigyang pansin ng ating bayan, sapagkat tayo ay nakapokus din sa pagsisiguro sa kaligtasan ng bawat individual, lalo na sa tuwing may mga di inaasahang sakuna o trahedya. Kaya naman ang isa sa mga pangunahing exercises na nakalaan para sa Balikatan Exercise 2023 ay ang Combined Joint Logistics Over the Shore o ang reinforcement ng United States Armed Forces sa pamamagitan ng pagpapadala ng lahat ng mga kagamitan mula sa dagat hanggang sa dalampasigan. Isa ito sa mga pinakamahirap ngunit pinakamahalagang exercises na nakapaloob sa Balikatan sapagkat ito ay kayang isagawa sa kahit saan mang dalampasigan, lalo na kung sakaling nasira ang mga mismong daungan.
So, joint logistics over the beach, CJ lots, means the ability to move cargo, equipment, and supplies through either a port or, in the cases here in Casaguran, we are bringing it directly over the beach where there is no port, there are no facilities. We can deploy to remote, isolated areas and still move equipment, material, supplies, fuel, and etc. across the shoreline. So from the sea to the shore to be employed in any number of operations.
For this particular exercise in CJ lots, it will be a joint exercise involving primarily the larger forces will be combined Navy because they will be utilizing their Navy ships, Navy assets. But the equipment that they were going to bring in will be from elements of the U.S. Army, U.S. Marines. Those will be vital to the further execution of the exercise up here in the defense of Northern Luzon. So some of the equipment that will be offloaded will be used in further exercises along the way. For example, in this particular event, the Philippine Navy provides the seaward security of the U.S. ships. The Philippine Army, through the 91st Infantry Battalion, provides the land-based security of the U.S. forces. So if you've seen the setup already, their logistics site, you will see there that both U.S. forces and AFP forces are together. The Armed Forces of the Philippines provides them the security as they are operating, as they are performing their assigned tasks.
It's very significant in that we are demonstrating our ability to partner with our Filipino allies to go to locations that are not normal ports. If you think of a scenario where a port may have been damaged by a typhoon or an earthquake, the port may be destroyed. I can still come provide humanitarian assistance and disaster relief through that. Or I can help support in a wartime scenario in the defense of the Philippines. We can go to an area that may not be damaged to deliver much needed supplies to keep the fight going. So I do not have combat troops here. My whole purpose is to sustain the combat troops. In order to have combat power, you have to have sustainment. In order to have reliable sustainment, you have to be able to go to places that may not normally be accessible. That's what I bring to this.
Ang mga individual na naitalaga para sa naturang exercise ay hindi lamang mga kasunduluhan sapagkat ang mga laang kawal at maging sibilyan ay kaagapay nila sa pagsasakatuparan nito.
I have approximately 600 U.S. personnel from civilian support on the ships to soldiers from the United States Army, Marines from the United States Marine Corps, and sailors from the United States Navy. And we are partnered with our allies from the Filipino Navy. I have Filipino Navy SEALs, I have Filipino Navy Marines, and then I also have partners from the Filipino Army that are providing security here in camp. So the ships that are delivering supplies that you're seeing moved here are crewed and manned by civilians. So they are American civilians running the ships that I am offloading with sailors and Marines to bring the equipment ashore. So civilians are absolutely vital in this mission. So we have large ships that are essentially a floating warehouse. They are equipped with all of the equipment I need, plus fuel, water, and the ability to move that to the shore. They come loaded with small boats and what we call lighterage, which allows us to move things across the water to the beach. They also bring with them a floating dock. So out on the ship out there, I have a dock that is 240 feet long and 72 feet wide that connects to the ship to allow we have a dock. Then we move it to small boats, and then we move it to the beach. Then we drive it across the beach and we offload it here in the shore.
Hindi madali ang pagsasagawa ng SAGE lots, kaya naman ilang buwan din ang ginugol ng bawat pwersa upang masigurong matagumpay na maisakatuparan ang lahat ng mga aktibidad na nakalaan.
Well, we constantly train for this mission, so you could say years in the making, but for Balikatan in particular, about 7 months of preparation went into this. We're conducting site surveys, coming out here to look at the possible locations we can go, to narrow that site survey down, then to start planning on what equipment we want to bring, then how we're going to move that, and then how are we going to incorporate our partners into being able to make that mission come about. I have the organic ability to go someplace and make water, handle camp support activities, cook food, and really not need any assistance. But to make us move faster, more agile, we relied on the economy of the Philippines to provide camp services. So we have toilets brought in. I did not have to bring toilets. We had our food catered and brought in. I could bring that, but I have to bring more stuff. So by using local food sources, I'm able to reduce the number of people I need, plus also demonstrate that we could go and use the local economy to support the camp. You hear generators running in the background. Those were locally procured. You can see some heavy equipment over here. That was locally leased until I could get my own heavy equipment off the ship. I carry all the heavy equipment, but it takes time to bring that ashore. By using the local economy and getting contracts in advance, I was able to make this happen faster.
Dahil sa angking husay, profesionalismo at dedikasyon ng mga kasunduluhan ng Sandatahang Lakas ng Pilipinas at ng Estados Unidos, hindi may tatangging hindi nahirapan ang dalawang pwersa na magkaintindihan at magtulungan para sa pagkamit ng kanilang iisang layunin.
I would most specifically like to highlight the capability of the Filipino Navy vessel, the Waray, because they are a LSF craft that is able to go from my ships to the port facility and deliver our material alongside our Navy craft. So literally I have Army, U.S. Navy, and Filipino Navy craft at the same time all working together to increase my capacity for delivering equipment to the beach. It has been phenomenal. From the day we got here, the Philippine Army has provided security from day one. They have immediately integrated with my team. They are part of our everyday life here in camp. I don't feel like they're a separate entity. I feel like they are totally a part of our group and organization. The Philippine Navy showed up and they were ready to start supporting the mission. They are providing my afloat security. So I have no security that does not come from the armed forces of the Philippines. And the Navy and the Army have immediately integrated, and I feel very, very comfortable working with them as our partners. The communication is great, and I just can't say enough about how smoothly it has gone with our partners. Well, it's always better to exercise in an environment where you may actually need to go, so this gives us an opportunity to come to a archipelagic chain like the Philippines and exercise those capabilities that we think we will need in future conflict. So it is incredibly important for the U.S. to come and exercise with our partners. But even more so, it's important to build the relationships that will allow us to properly defend the Philippines should the need arise.
Para sa pagsasagawa ng SAGE lots, kinakailangang magtulungan ang dalawang pwersa sa pamamagitan ng kanilang mga makabago at modernong kagamitan, kung saan ang kapabilidad at kakayahan ay talaga namang tiyak na kamamanghaan.
Yeah. So some of the assets that we're using here for CJ lots includes our USNS ships. So we have USNS Dahl and USNS Williams. They're the ships that transported all of the heavy equipment that's going to be rolled off from ship to shore. Another one that we have is what's called our RDF platforms, and those are what back up to the back of the USNS ships, and they roll equipment from the ship onto the platform, and then from there it will transport to another either vessel, whether that's a causeway ferry that we've brought with us, whether that's one of the Army's LCUs or LCMs, or we're working, again, combined Philippine forces. So the Philippine Navy is also help transporting equipment. So they're pulling up to the RRDF and we're rolling equipment onto their ship, and they're bringing that equipment to the pier and transiting it onto the pier with us. So very combined, a lot of different assets from all different forces involved. And then the equipment that we're actually moving, the majority of that equipment from Humvees to MATVs to medical vehicles are all U.S. Marine equipment. In order to actually execute CJ lots, we have to set up our what's called LSA, our life support area. This is where all of our sailors, troops, and combined forces are going to house, stay, and live throughout the duration of the exercise. So we show up early and we set this up. They spent about a week and a half clearing all of the property, setting up the camp equipment itself that we live in, that we eat at, that we shower at, and then that's when we actually began the CJ lots once camp is complete.
Bagaman ang mga kalahok sa Balikatan ay mula sa iba't ibang puwersa kung saan ay may kanya-kanyang mga kapabilidad at kakayahan, hindi may pagkakailang sapat ang kahandaan ng dalawang bansa upang matagumpay na maisakatuparan ang kanilang mga operasyon.
So Balikatan 23 and all Balikatan exercises are extremely important because they not only help prepare us, we come out here, we practice proof of concept of what not only the U.S. forces capabilities are, but also what our Philippine nation partners' capabilities are. So we work together to execute that, prepare so that we can help support a better free and Indo-Pacific. We can be prepared at a moment's notice if we're needed to do something. And not only for that, but we can also support what's called HADR, or Humanitarian Assistance and Disaster Relief. So we now know that in a moment's notice, if there is a disaster, be it a tsunami or something like that, we can come in and we can help support that. So there are a lot of things that help us better grow in our capabilities and learn from one another as we work with our Philippine partners while we're out here. So things like even security up at our entry control point, we learn how to work together. What type of security does U.S. forces provide and what type of security does the AFP provide? And doing things like this helps us know in the future if we were ever needed to work jointly together, that we know what each side's capabilities are as far as security. And then when we go out to the actual CJ lots exercise, working with the Philippine Navy and actually having them pull up to our platforms like the RDF and pull up to the USNS ships, helps them be able to practice how they can move equipment from ours to theirs safely and effectively. So if we didn't do things like this, we would not be as prepared if that moment's notice came up or if a disaster struck. So we prepare, we learn from one another, we learn how to perform these exercises, we learn how to work together to provide security, and then in the future, we're able to execute quickly and effectively.
Kahit pa matagumpay na naisagawa ang CJ lots, hindi ito magiging posible kung hindi dahil sa mga kasundaluhang binibigay ang kanilang buong pusong serbisyo na siyang nakatuon sa kani-kanilang mga misyon.
Our jobs at Amphibious Construction Battalion 1, we're both heavy equipment operators. We're part of Alpha Company, and that consists of equipment operators and mechanics. So not just like horizontal construction. We deal with transportation, driving big trucks, forklifts, rough terrain cargo handlers that can move like big 20-foot containers and stuff. So with this exercise itself, like we were tasked with building this to make sure that we could get all the equipment from the ship to the shore. So the entire submat is 200 feet out from where we're standing here, which enables the craft, if it's a lower tide, the craft doesn't have to come in as far and they can lower their ramp and the vehicles can still make it to shore without worrying about sinking or being too deep in the water. And it's disposable, so at the end, environmentally, anything like that, we just come in and we can cut it open and use equipment and pick it up, and all the sand will go back to where we got it from, and it'll just naturally fill itself back in.
My name is AG1 Troy Gray. I'm the LPO, the leading petty officer for the weather people that are stationed here at Casagaran. supporting Balikatan 23. We provide weather support for every operation that is going to happen here. That's going to, even if it's just Navy, if it's just Marines, joint operations with the Filipino Army, the Filipino Navy. Before they go out on any marches or do any amphibious operations, landings and things like that, we'll provide them a weather forecast so they know if the conditions are safe to do the operations. We use the computer to look at things called weather models that are things that are built by people studying weather all over the world, and they take the information that they have, like temperature, sea pressure, surface pressure, sea heights, temperature, and things like that, and they put it together into computer models that we can use to see what the trends have been over the past days, weeks, hours even. And we use that basically to determine the future. So like if it was raining somewhere else and we know that the system that was causing the rain is moving east, it'll be raining over us if we're, say, east of that station. The accuracy of the forecast is assured by people that are taking observations. All over the world, there's people whose job it is to just go outside and take an observation, write down what's happening, and then come back to a computer system, put in the information that they saw. So that way we can look at the forecast that we provided and compare it to what people are seeing in real time.
Samantala, kasama rin sa CJ Lots exercise ang dalawa sa mga barko ng hukbong dagat ng Pilipinas kung saan ay may ginampanan na mahalagang tungkulin upang matagumpay na maisakatuparan ang naturang exercise.
BRP Waray is a landing craft heavy type of vessel. It's an Ivatan class. We acquired just recently, siguro mga 5-7 years ago from Australia. So 5 sila at isa doon si BRP Waray LC-288. Ang kanyang area of operation or deployment is sa Naval Forces Northern Luzon. He is currently conducting maritime operations and maritime patrol sa 3 maritime areas ng maritime operations ng Naval Forces Northern Luzon, MA1, MA2, and MA3. Kasiguran is ginagawa natin yung Balikatan 38-23 is part of the MA3 maritime area ng Naval Forces Northern Luzon. Ang capability ng isang BRP Waray is a landing craft heavy. He can do amphibious landing operations, beaching operations. He can do ship-to-shore movements. May nakita nyo kanina kung paano kami nag-offload ng mga gamit from the bigger ship, then they will deliver it sa mga di kayang abutin ng mga malalaking barko or even to the beaches, yung mga undeveloped embarkation points. So yun yung capability ng isang landing craft heavy or BRP Waray LC-288. Kasama rin namin dito si BRP Nestor Reynoso, PC-380. He's actually conducting patrols, maritime patrols din habang kinakandak yung joint logistics over the shore operations.
Sa kabilang banda, kahit pa kakambit na ng buhay ng mga kasundaluhan ang hindi komportabling karanasan, sinisiguro ng bawat organisasyon na hindi nahuhuli at pinagtutuunan pansin din ang kanilang kapakanan. Sa katunayan, ang lugar kung saan sila nakabase para sa pagsasagawa ng CJ Lots ay talaga namang kompleto ang mga kagamitan, bagay na nagpapataas sa moral ng mga kasundaluhan.
These areas with the white tents are galley. So this is where we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. This is where sailors in the evening can come. We have MWR, which provides games and support for the sailors that our chaplain runs, Lieutenant Kwan. And so they come out here, they can play cards at night, they can play board games and things like that, just to kind of relax before another busy day the next morning. The kitchen area, which again, this wouldn't be possible without the help of contractors from the Philippines. So all of our food is contracted here. We didn't bring it with us. So super beneficial for us and super great food. Our chaplain's room, this is where we'll have services every Sunday. So like this Sunday, we'll have Easter Sunday service here. We do Catholic and Protestant services. And then he also provides any sort of counseling that sailors or troops might need. So if they're just feeling like they need to talk to somebody, we bring a chaplain with us who is trained to speak to the sailors and the troops. And then all of that they speak to him is confidential, so they can share anything they feel like. If they're feeling, down or sad, they can share that with the chaplain while they're out here. So they get a lot of support. It all comes out of the Tricon box. They set it up, and then we can continue to do our PT every day when we're here based on every sailor and troop schedule. So a super great feature, also provided by our MWR. So they provide all our entry security, and this is one of the big joint or combined partnerships that we have between the AFP, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, and then our U.S. forces. So we have roving guards throughout the day that rove around camp, and then we have our ECP security here, and then we work combined. So we have AFP and Navy working together at the same time to provide security, and then our Army troops rove the camp throughout the day and night. This is where they do all of their logistics and administrative work from. They're here basically because a lot of the equipment that we're taking off the USNS ships Dahl and Williams are marine equipment. So they come, essentially, we are in charge, the Navy, of moving that equipment from ship to shore, and then as soon as that equipment hits the shore, it becomes ownership of the Marines, and then they take over from there and move that equipment on land to what we call the marshalling area or the staging area where we'll put all of that equipment. So it takes a lot of coordination between the Marines and from the Navy side to make that happen from ship to shore.
Mula sa pagpaplano hanggang sa pagsasagawa ng lahat ng mga exercises na nakapaloob sa Balikatan 2023, ating masasalamin ang kahandaan ng dalawang puwersa laban sa pagtugon sa kanilang tungkuling sinumpaan, alang-alang sa kapayapaan ng bayang pinoprotektahan. Sa ating pagbabalik, atin namang tunghayan ang mga personal na karanasan ng mga kasundaluhang kalahok sa Balikatan 2023 at kung paano ito nag-iwan sa kanila ng mahalagang aral at kasiyahan na habang buhay nilang magiging tangan. Kahit pa taon-taong isinasagawa ang Balikatan exercise, hindi lahat ng mga kasunduluhan ang nabibigyan ng pagkakataon upang lumahok nito. Kaya naman lubos ang pasasalamat ng ilan sa mga sundalong napabilang dahil sa di malilimutang karanasan at mas lumalalim na pagkakaibigan na kanilang naranasan.
Being able to come here and be a part of this exercise is really good. At the same time, being able to go out into the local villages and help them. They asked us to help widen. They have a path. I wouldn't call it a road. It's just a path through the village or through the jungle essentially. We were able to go over there with some of our equipment and make it wider for them so they could get cars through there instead of just walking because it had got overgrown. Being able to help out the local villagers and make things better for them, showing that we care about you guys too a lot, but also getting to work hand in hand with the Filipino Seabees and exchanging ideas with them and seeing how they do things, and then they're learning a lot from us as well. So the whole joint fellowship, if you will, because we've bonded quite a bit with their group just in the short 2 weeks we've been here. This is my first, other than December coming out for the site survey, this is my first time to the Philippines, and it's been a great experience. I'm interacting with the local population and being able to go out to the market sometimes on occasion and buy stuff. I bought my son a little dump truck from the market, and I bought my daughter a little kitchen set, and everybody was kind of laughing at me because they didn't understand why I was buying toys. So I just showed them pictures of my family and explained why I was getting it, because I always try to get something for my wife and 2 kids whenever I go anywhere. I try to bring something back for them. But yeah, it's been really good. Most of 90% of my deployments have been to war zones, Iraq, Afghanistan, so being able to come here and help out, it's been a great experience, not just for myself, but my entire crew. We have 9 active duty and 10 reservist personnel. They've all thoroughly enjoyed their time so far.
I'm very excited to be here. I would say that most weather people in the United States Navy are going to be stationed on ships. They won't get to actually do a boots on ground type of operation like Balikatan. So it's very unique, and you're in an area where there's not a lot of weather resources. so it's just a little more difficult to actually forecast for. So that is a little more exciting. Actually trying to forecast for areas where there's not as many other people for me to reach out to and see what they're seeing or what they're forecasting. Getting along so far has been really great. The Filipino military has been very nice. The people, the civilians, like the vendors that are out here, have all been very nice and very supportive as well.
So far with the Balikatan, it's been a great experience. It's been great working with the force. It's been easy working with them, and it's the experience I was expecting for coming here, working with Filipinos during a Balikatan exercise.
It's been very positive for my guys. I know they've enjoyed it. We work hard, but the AFP treat us very well. They work differently than we do. We'll traditionally not take as much time. Most of our projects and missions are in a shorter span, so this one's an enduring project. We'll be out here for a month and some change, so we have to pace ourselves. And the AFP have been helping us out with the experience, the knowledge, and then keeping our morale up. The area itself is very nice. We've been very lucky, I think, out of all the sites that the community's been very helpful in sourcing our materials, helping us out to get the word out for the project. And yeah, I can say anything but a positive experience so far. It's a pleasure for us to come out and be able to provide a structure and be able to see how you guys operate. Again, this is totally new for me, and I have some Filipino friends, but I've never worked this closely with another armed force. I appreciate everything that they've done for us. We get to experience a lot of their culture, their food, life out in town. Again, the area has been super helpful and great towards us. So I just want to say thank you for letting us come and be able to provide something that will hopefully stand the test of time.
Marahil ang Balikatan exercise ay isa lamang sa paraan ng Pilipinas at ng Estados Unidos upang mas mapalakas ang kanilang puwersa at mapaigting ang kanilang kapabilidad at kakayahan. Subalit ang kapanatagan na naibibigay nito sa bawat mamamayang Pilipino ay hindi matatawaran sapagkat batid nilang kahit anumang negatibong pangyayari na maaring dumating, sapat ang kahandaan ng mga kasundaluhan.
I would say, speaking on a personal note, that my confidence level is high in our exercise. We come out, we prepare in advance, we know what we're going to do, we create our schedules, we know what equipment's being moved, we know what partners we're working with, and then we come out and we execute that. And of course there are always lessons learned as we complete an exercise, but the goal of these things is to learn from those lessons learned. So when we do them, we can now say, okay, what worked, what didn't work, what can we improve on, or what do we need to keep doing? And that's exactly what doing these exercises proves.
I think very prepared, and I think our ability to immediately integrate as we have speaks to that preparedness. We can always do better, we can always press harder, we can always grow better as allies, but I am very confident, and I feel we are very prepared. Both nations, both the Philippines and the United States, are very prepared to work in a partnership for the defense of the Philippines. Mostly that I'm grateful for the opportunity to exercise here in Casiguran as part of Balikatan 23. Balikatan meaning, of course, shoulder to shoulder. That is exactly how we are conducting ourselves here. I am very proud of my Filipino partners in the Filipino Army and the Filipino Navy and how we are able to move this mission forward. It's the first time we've ever done it, and it would seem like we've done this many times, the way we have come together as a team. So I'm very excited about it. I hope I can come back. I hope the Philippines will invite us to come back and do this again.
As we say, the armed forces of the Philippines should always be prepared in addressing challenges of our country, whether it's on climate change, disaster and response, or military operations. The armed forces of the Philippines should be prepared any time of the day, 24/7. Right now, I learned very much from our U.S. counterparts. The head of the U.S. counterpart heading the Combined Joint Operation, logistic operations over the sea, and he told us very much that how they've undertaken the efficiency of setting up their systems. And that is what we should be achieving also in our armed forces. Achieve the efficiency so that we would be able to address these challenges better in the future.
We are confident, and we have to be confident. Because if we are not confident, we cannot inspire confidence in our people. So this is what we have to show. And the way to gain confidence is to keep on doing exercises. The more you do exercises, the more you train, the more confident you will be at your task. It's like a muscle. If the muscle is not used, it will shrink. If you use your muscles often, it will grow. It will enable you to perform your tasks as they should. So this, I think, an exercise is for us to use our capacity in order for us to get better at our mandate.
And for the Filipino people, your armed forces is always behind you. You have our trust and confidence, and we hope we will also have your support.
I would like to quote from Nation Samurai Miyamoto Musashi, "The only reason a warrior exists is to fight, and the only reason a warrior fights is to win. You cannot do that, then why be a warrior? It's better for you to just count beads." So we have one mission, and it's to defend the country, and that is what we promise to deliver.
Sa mahigit 7 dekada na pakikipagkapit-bisig at pagtutulungan ng Pilipinas at ng Estados Unidos, ay pinatunayan ng dalawang bansa na ang lalim ng kanilang ugnayan ay hindi kailanman mabubuwag at patuloy na mamamayagpag. Ang Balikatan exercises ay simbolo ng pakikipagkaibigan at pagkakaisa ng dalawang pwersa na mas lumawig at tumibay pa sa paglipas ng panahon. Subalit nawa ay maikintal sa ating mga puso't isipan na bagaman nagsisikap ang ating mga kasunduluhan na maghanda laban sa anumang banta, walang ibang dalangin ang kanilang mga puso kundi ang makamit ang tunay na kapayapaan at kaunlaran. Muli, isang karangalan na kayo'y aming mapaglingkuran. Ako po si Major Sonon C. Pancito III at kami ang inyong kawal.
Ang inyong kawal, magtatakbo sa inyo, ang sandigan ng mamamayang Pilipino. Kagitingan, katapatan, kabayanihan, taglay ng kawal nyo.
Ito ang DWDD 1134 kHz AM. Balita, impormasyon at musika. Ito ang DWDD AFP Radio. Boses ng Kawal Pilipino.